Great kickoff. Benoît, it's so great to be here with you.
Yeah, thank you.
So cozy in this room. I'm so honored because you're one of the original founders of Snowflake. And Snowflake kind of is like a poster child, I feel, for every entrepreneur. You guys launched in 2012. You went public in 2020, COVID year, that's crazy. You work with everyone from OpenAI to Canva to Disney. I'm not gonna be able to do the whole list, obviously. Your team is nearly 7,000 people. You have 40 global offices. I mean, did you imagine that you would build something like this when you first started out? And also maybe for people who don't know Snowflake, tell us what the company does.
Yeah, so first, definitely we would not have known that when we started. And if we had known that, we would not have done Snowflake, I can tell you. It would be too scary. Yeah, we started Snowflake in 2012. At that time, if you remember, there were like two big revolutions in the data world, right? I was born in data. We were both Thierry and I. Thierry Curanes is the other co-founder of Snowflake. We were working at Oracle, and at that time in the data world, there were really two big events. One is the Hadoop, and Hadoop was about bringing semi-structured data, log, IoT data to the data estate. Right? It was not only about structured data, which were the data warehouse, traditional data warehouse of the world, and the other revolution was the cloud. And the cloud for this system, analytical platform, is the elasticity, the compute on demand, was magic because these workloads are not steady. You need a lot of power when you do these analytics, but when you are not doing them, you don't need that power. So having really compute on demand was really attractive. So this is where we decided to start Snowflake. We left in 2012, as you said. At that time, we had no idea on exactly what to do, what it meant, to be a cloud platform and how to leverage elasticity in the cloud, because traditional, database architecture are not designed to be elastic. So we spent, Thierry and I had an apartment on El Camino, if you know the place in San Mateo. I had a small apartment, so we spent, days, months actually, in my living room, the two of us. I bought a whiteboard. My wife was not very happy with this whiteboard in the living room, but I was okay. And we spent, really months until, 2013 designing the blueprint of Snowflake and really imagining what does it mean, leveraging the cloud? What does it mean to unify, semi-structured data with structured data? How to leverage, this cloud platform, and in particular, blob storage, which is immutable.
I love it. The apartment on El Camino, the whiteboard in the living room. That's the entrepreneurial dream. And so you talk about that you guys actually spent a whole year kind of hashing out what you want to do, and the product didn't go live for a while. What happened there?
Yeah, yes, it was a little bit less than a year. It's like 6 months, until 2013. Then we ramped up the company. We moved to a real office. Yeah, so it took some time to build Snowflake, and we really wanted to build it from the ground up. People would use, technology like open source technology, Postgres, and they would, build a more distributed system on top of Postgres. We decided that, to leverage the elasticity of the cloud and to leverage, blob storage, which is immutable. You cannot, update a file when you write it. We had to completely rethink, that system from the ground up, and frankly, we were not really looking at building a company. We wanted to build a product. So what was exciting for us was to build really something from scratch, from this whiteboard, and that's what we did. So it took us almost 2 years to build it. A lot of money from our investors, not from us. So that was great. And yeah, it was really the fun time. Like building and innovating is really what we love to do.
So if I take you to the early days of kind of commercialization, what adjustments did you have to make, if any? And what signs did you have that it was starting to work and take off?
Yeah, the adjustment was funny because Snowflake was such a novel, system. We completely decoupled, storage and compute, and you could, provision, hundreds of compute servers in less than, few minutes. Now it's less than 1 second, but at the time it took a little bit longer. And you can, run your analytics. When you're done, you can shut down everything, and you really get, the speed, in the cloud, because you rent resources. You rent them by the time you use them. So if you grab, 100 servers, you can go 100 times faster. But at the time, you pay exactly the same price as if you had only one server. Because with one server, of course, it takes longer. And because you use that single server for 100 times more, at the end, it's the same price. So when we realized that, it was really novel. But we could not, really tell that to our customer. That's the lesson we learn. When you create something too different, people are scared and they don't understand it, and so we had to use, traditional words, like we are data warehouse, don't worry, you have Teradata, yes, we can do it, you have Hadoop, yes, we can do that, and we had to explain and use words in our technology that were common, right? We had to hide actually the revolution, which was funny because as a geeky person, I really wanted to talk about it. Our first sales guy, would not, describe the ability to create many independent compute pools working all against the same data, because that was too much. People would not believe it, and sometimes they would say, okay, I don't believe it, and they would leave. So we had to explain it in a simple words and not too scary.
That's incredible. So you had to hide the revolution.
Yes, we had to hide the revolution. I'll slowly expose it.
And so what were the signs that it was taking off?
The adoption, really, I think the biggest, great feeling for us was customers, really loving the technology and being completely blown away by what they could do with Snowflake that they couldn't do with their traditional system, and this, it was viral. It really propagated. Everyone was talking about it, and we had a crazy adoption. I had these slides at the beginning. First year of Snowflake, we had few logos, and second year we had almost a page full of logos, and at the end we couldn't put the logos. So that's. We have this customer who stopped smoking. He was so nervous. He was managing this pipeline during the weekend. He had to work all weekend long. And because of Snowflake, this ability to allocate, thousands of compute resources in minutes, he could do everything before the weekend. And, his weekend was back with his family, so he said, I stopped smoking. And so you have really an impact on, and this is where you realize that, wow, this is bigger than, just technology. Technology has a real impact on human, life, and this is great. This is what I think, passionate me, is the impact on the real world.
I love it. So Snowflake also helps people stop smoking. That's
yes,
crazy.
Yes. That's a side effect. If you are smoking, you should use Snowflake.
I love it. That's the whole room. But I want to talk about scaling as well, because you mentioned kind of the early days, 2 people sitting in a room, first year, just a couple of logos. I mean, today, I don't imagine how many logos you guys have. We talked about 7,000 people around the world. I mean, there must have been growing pains. I've talked to so many companies that have told me about some of their scaling pains. They don't even know who's on payroll anymore. I mean, tell me, what were some of the pains that you guys experienced?
Yeah, I guess the biggest pain for me when I realized that someone was saying, oh, I'm working at Snowflake, and I didn't know that someone. That I think is the biggest, it's the most difficult thing. You don't know everyone that works at Snowflake. We used to be a small group, so we have to get used to, as you said, 7,000 plus employees. So, but beyond that, I think the most difficult aspect of it for me, I'm a product guy, right? I'm focusing on the product, is to keep our product values as they were at the beginning. We wanted to build Snowflake. I talk about the cloud and the elasticity of the cloud, but the other reason we wanted to build Snowflake is to create, completely managed service where, we would remove complexity for our customers. We would manage the infrastructure, our software, and it's not like we had an army of DBAs doing things. It was really the software doing, self-managing completely, and keeping that simplicity, not exposing complexity, getting it inside. And as, the product surface, increases, as we had, AI, and we had, unstructured data, and we had, all these capabilities, keeping, a single product, vision, which is really simple to use, where you don't spend all your time managing the infrastructure, you just use the product for what it is intended to do, is harder, right? And you have to, convince, and you have to work, spend more time looking at design. So I think for me, keeping these product values, there is the biggest, to that day, the biggest challenge.
That's interesting. I was going to ask you, what really differentiates how Snowflake approaches product versus other companies?
Yeah, I think the one thing, we are a little bit the iPhone of data, if I can use this analogy, but really the vision of keeping the complexity inside, right? It's not the iPhone is a very, stupid product, not efficient, not because it's simple, right? Oftentimes people equate simplicity with less, capabilities, less features, and less performance. Is actually exactly the reverse. The simplest products are the most efficient, the most, performance. And that's why we wanted to keep, complexity inside. And if you remember, when we created Snowflake, there were only very few companies in the world that could, leverage, really big data platform analytic, like the Google of the world. We wanted every company in the world to be like Google. And for that, of course, not every company can afford to have an army of engineers, have a lot of money to spend. So you need to internalize the complexity. And I think that's the simplicity is the most, the most important value for us. Yeah.
Super. I'm going to fast forward now to 2020 when you guys went public. That's something that we don't talk about much in this ecosystem. We don't have a ton of IPOs all over the place. First of all, how did you live that experience? And what do you want people in the room to know about taking a company public?
Yeah, it was a funny time because, as you said, it was COVID. So it was the COVID IPO, I would say. So we were all... Thierry came with his family to my house. I was living in San Carlos. And we had this big, TV. We almost lost the internet, so we almost, couldn't attend the IPO. That was one of the fun time. But yeah, it was a bizarre event, and the IPO was we said this was the most, high-priced, ever IPO, software IPO in the forever, and that was not a good feeling actually. Because we realized, from one day to the next, from one morning to in 1 hour, we had to deliver. We had to deliver the expectation of what people would put in Snowflake, and that scared me a lot. And I thought, wow, this is becoming real, right? We have to deliver, and I didn't have a good feeling, even though it was a very successful IPO, of course. But I wish, it was a little bit less, frankly. But at the same time, it's it's like I always compare, startup with growing, right? You are a baby, and then you are growing, and then one day you become adults. And IPO is a little bit this adulthood. That's somewhere you wish you were an adult, and when you are an adult, you look back, you say, okay, yesterday I was the same person, right? It doesn't change that much. But IPO is a little bit more impactful because it becomes, much more serious. So if you can avoid the IPO, avoid it.
That's an interesting piece of advice. Also, I imagine you guys had other exit opportunities, and you decided to prioritize IPO.
Yeah, as I said, we built Snowflake not to build a business, so that part I didn't care at all. It was not like, the IPO exit might be a better outcome for the company. No, our main focus was the product, right? Was building the technology, building. As soon as you are acquired, 90% chance that your product is going to die. just by the acquisition. And sometimes even people are acquiring things just to kill them because they are scary. So I really didn't want any acquisition. I wanted to bring Snowflake to the next stage. And it's like watching a TV series. I always say, you want to go to the next season of that series, and we wanted to create that next season.
Incredible. Well, I saved probably the best topic for the end because we only have a few minutes left, but obviously everyone is talking about AI. You're sitting obviously in a really interesting seat at Snowflake in the product role. What's getting you excited? What are you paying attention to? Is there anything that's scaring you that you're worried about?
Yeah, it is interesting. Everyone talks about AI because it impacts everyone. I really believe it impacts every business. For data, it has a bigger impact for us than I would say most products in the world, because AI is really the way we brought unstructured data to the data, the data sets of the company, right? It used to be that unstructured data, when I say unstructured data, is like any type of file, PDF, image, audio recordings. All these file formats were only for human consumption, right? You could not extract, information easily from those, and AI really made that possible. So when I say we started Snowflake with structured data and semi-structured data, AI, really brought this ability to now bring completely non-structured data to the data platform, inside the data platform, and that's very important because like we thought that data should not be siloed, structured data and semi-structured data. If you remember, there was, Hadoop for semi-structured data, data warehouse for structured data. People thought that that's fine, but actually you need to connect data, no matter the nature or the type of this data. So having one single system to manage everything is really important. So we brought AI inside the Snowflake platform to really extract, value and information from this unstructured data. So that's number one. Also searching, right? Having the best search engine, and we made an acquisition for that. So that's, all about unstructured data. And of course, the second aspect of AI is the democratization of data. Oftentimes, these data platforms are managed by IT. IT is locking, the access to business. They want to control, they want to manage it, and oftentimes business have a hard time to interact with this platform because they are really geeky, right? You have to talk to your data in SQL. Who knows how to talk, and speak SQL language? Now AI can translate between, natural, human language to SQL. Do that automatically. It can build, dashboard on the fly, for you. So all of a sudden, you open the platform to any users in this large enterprise, any business user, and that's a huge opportunity. We wanted always to democratize access to data. That's why we made Snowflake simple. We wanted everyone to be like Google. But now the opportunity is that every employee of a large organization can directly talk to the data. And that's magic.
Super. And Benoît, just one word before we wrap it up. What's a piece of advice you have to anyone who wants to be the next Snowflake?
I don't have any piece of
advice.
advice.
No
I
IPOs.
hate advice, but you have to have ambition, you have to have fun, you have to be very optimistic if you want to be a founder.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.